Are you exhausted? Working 12-hour days, ticking every box, following every rule, yet your impact and your income keep hitting a ceiling? Here's the truth that's going to wake you up. The problem isn't your effort. The problem is your engine. You read trying to win a modern race using muscle in an era that demands brain. And if you're an African, professional, whether you're in Lagos, Kampala, Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, or watching from the diaspora, this message is for you. Today, we're breaking down Dr. Kahabuka's powerful work, From Muscle to Brain. This is about liberation. This is about leading Africa's future. Welcome to KM Knowledge Movement. Here at KM Knowledge Movement, we don't just gather information. We pursue the shifts in perspective that actually change lives. And today's shift is urgent. In the old world, survival was about physical output. You worked the land. You built with your hands. You showed up, you labored, and if you were lucky, you survived. But in the new world, and specifically in the emerging African economy, success belongs to those who can transition their value from what they can do with their hands to what they can solve with their minds. Dr. Catherine, a Tanzanian health systems expert and mentor who has trained professionals across many African countries, wrote From Muscle to Brain as a manual for this transformation. Not just for individuals, but for an entire continent standing at the edge of its greatest opportunity. This isn't about working less. It's about working differently. It is about understanding that your potential is not in your ability to follow orders. It's in your ability to see problems and design solutions. Today, we're going to walk through 3 critical phases. Why the muscle mindset is a trap that keeps you limited. How the brain mindset creates exponential leverage. And how you can make this transition starting today. Because Africa doesn't need more followers. It needs more thinkers. It needs you to make this shift. Let's begin. Part 1. The trap of the muscle mindset. First, let's define what Dr. Catherine means by muscle. She's not just talking about physical labor. The muscle mindset is a way of existing where your value is tied strictly to time and effort. It's the belief that says, if I just work longer hours, I'll get ahead. Success comes from grinding harder than everyone else. My worth is measured by how busy I am. It's characterized by being a doer but never a thinker, relying on routine without questioning efficiency, trading hours for money with no strategy for leverage. For many of us in Africa, this mindset was inherited. We watched our parents work incredibly hard in agriculture, in traditional industries, in jobs where showing up and laboring was everything. We were taught that hard work is the ultimate virtue. And here's the truth bomb. Hard work is a requirement, but it is not a strategy. Dr. Catherine points out something critical. Muscle depreciates. Your body gets tired. Your energy depletes. Your time is finite. You only have 24 hours in a day, no matter who you are. If your income is tied to your physical presence and your repetitive labor, you have built a ceiling into your life. You have capped your potential at the limits of your endurance. Think about this comparison. The construction worker versus the architect. The worker uses muscle lifting, carrying, building with their hands. The architect uses brain designing, solving problems, creating systems. One job scales. The other stalls. One creates leverage. The other creates exhaustion. One builds wealth. The other trades time for survival. As African professionals, we have been workers for the global economy for too long. We've been the labor force while others design the systems. We've been the execution while others capture the value. This book is the manual for becoming the architects. The muscle mindset keeps us in competition with each other for limited jobs. It keeps us replaceable. It keeps us tired. And here is the perspective shift. Staying in the muscle zone feels safe because you know what to do. You show up, you execute, you get paid. There's a comfort in predictability. But comfort is dangerous. Comfort kills greatness. True transformation, the kind that changes not just your income, but your identity, happens when you step into the brain zone, where you have to think, innovate, and lead. Part 2. The science of the brain shift. Now let's talk about what it actually means to shift from muscle to brain. Dr. Catherine emphasizes that this transition isn't just a metaphor, it's biological. This is where neuroscience meets professional transformation. Here's a fact. Your brain is the most expensive piece of real estate you own. It consumes 20% of your body's energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. To move from muscle to brain, you have to stop treating your head as a storage unit for facts and start treating it as a processor for solutions. The book highlights 3 key brain assets that separate high-impact professionals from the exhausted masses. 1. Synthesis, the power of connection. Synthesis is the ability to take 2 unrelated ideas and create something new. It's pattern recognition across domains. While the muscle worker asks, "What's my task?" the brain worker asks, "What patterns am I seeing? What connections can I make?" This is how innovation happens. Not from working harder on the same problems, but from seeing relationships that others miss. In Africa, we have unique challenges. But synthesis allows you to look at solutions from Asia, adapt principles from Europe, and create something that fits our context perfectly. That's brain work. 2. Strategic rest, the innovation catalyst. Here's something the hustle culture won't tell you. Muscle requires rest to heal, but the brain requires stillness to innovate. Your best ideas don't come when you're grinding through hour 12 of your workday. They come in the shower, on the walk. In the moment of quiet, Dr. Catherine emphasizes that strategic rest isn't laziness. It's a competitive advantage. The brain needs space to process, to connect, to create. This is the ancient wisdom meeting modern neuroscience. The Stoics called it contemplation. Eastern philosophy calls it stillness. Science calls it the default mode network. Whatever you call it, here's what matters. If you're always busy, you're never thinking. 3. Neuroplasticity, your rewiring potential. This is the most liberating concept in modern neuroscience. You can rewire yourself for high-level problem solving at any age. Your brain isn't fixed. The pathways can change. The patterns can shift. You are not stuck being who you were. Whether you're 25 or 55, you can develop the cognitive capacity to think strategically, to solve complex problems, to create systems. This is the foundation of the brain mindset, understanding that you can upgrade your mental operating system. When you shift to the brain mindset, you stop asking, "What task do I need to finish?" and start asking, "What system can I create that eliminates this task forever?" That's the difference. That's the leverage. Part 3. The African Professional's Opportunity. Now, let's get specific. Why is this message so urgent for Africa right now? We are in the middle of a massive revolution. While the rest of the world is dealing with aging populations and rigid legacy systems, Africa is young, dynamic, and leapfrogging technologies. We're not upgrading from landlines to smartphones, we're jumping straight to mobile money, bypassing the entire banking infrastructure that took centuries to build elsewhere. We are in the artificial intelligence revolution. This is our moment. But only if we make the shift from muscle to brain. Dr. Catherine argues that the brain approach allows an African professional to solve local problems with global standards. Consider these 2 professionals looking at the same situation. The muscle professional sees a lack of infrastructure and complains. There are no good roads. The internet is unreliable. The systems don't work. The brain professional sees a lack of infrastructure and asks, "How can I design a logistics solution that works around bad roads? How can I build a platform that functions with intermittent connectivity? What system can I create that thrives in these exact conditions?" See the difference? One is trapped by circumstances. The other is liberated by them. One waits for someone else to fix the problem. The other becomes the solution. Your potential is not in your ability to follow a job description. Your potential is in your ability to observe a pain point in your community, whether it's in healthcare, finance, education, or agriculture, and use your cognitive capacity to build a bridge. This is how fortunes are built. This is how industries are created. This is how Africa rises. Think about mobile money in Kenya. That wasn't invented because infrastructure was perfect. It was invented because infrastructure was lacking. Someone looked at the problem with a brain approach and said, "What if we use the one thing everyone has, a mobile phone, to bypass the entire banking system? That's brain thinking. That's leverage. That's wealth creation. And here's the identity shift that has to happen. You are not just an employee. You are not just a worker. You are a solution provider. You are an architect of the future. When you see yourself this way, everything changes. You stop accepting low pay for high effort because you realize your value is in your hours, it's in your insights. You stop competing for scarce jobs because you realize you can create opportunities. You stop waiting for permission because you realize the continent needs what you can build. Africa doesn't need more people following global templates. Africa needs people who can think deeply about local problems and design African solutions. That's the opportunity. That's your calling. Part 4. How to make the transition. So how do you actually make this shift? Dr. Catherine provides a practical roadmap. Let's break it down. Step 1. Audit your day. Right now. Today. I want you to track how much of your day is spent on muscle tasks versus brain tasks. Muscle tasks are responding to emails, repetitive data entry, manual processes that could be automated, meetings where you're just present but not contributing, any activity where you're not thinking, just executing. Brain tasks are deep work solving complex problems, strategic planning designing systems, learning upgrading your mental models, creating building something new, analyzing seeing patterns others are missing. If your ratio is 90% muscle and 10% brain, you are in danger. You are on the treadmill to exhaustion. Aim for 60% muscle, 40% brain, then work toward flipping that entirely. The goal is to automate, delegate, or eliminate muscle tasks so you can focus your energy where it actually creates value. Step 2. Invest in brain food. You cannot think at a higher level if you're consuming intellectual junk food. Stop spending your free time on passive entertainment that numbs your brain. Start spending it on content that challenges you. Read the books that make your head hurt. Listen to the podcasts that force you to reconsider your assumptions. Take the courses that stretch your cognitive capacity. Dr. Catherine emphasizes this. Your brain is a muscle that grows with use. But like any muscle, it needs progressive overload. You have to challenge it with increasingly complex ideas. If you're not regularly consuming ideas that are above your current level, you're not growing, you're maintaining. This is why you're here on KM Knowledge Movement. Because you understand that knowledge is leverage, but only when it's applied. Step 3. The rule of leverage. Here's the question that separates muscle thinkers from brain thinkers. How can I do this once and have it work for me 1,000 times? That's the essence of leverage. That's the essence of the brain mindset. Muscle thinking says, I need to work harder and serve more clients. Brain thinking says, I need to create a system, a product, a process that serves clients without requiring my constant presence. Muscle thinking scales linearly 1 hour, 1 unit of output. Brain thinking scales exponentially 1 idea, infinite applications. Examples of leverage. Writing a book that continues to teach long after you've written it. Creating a course that delivers value while you sleep. Building a system that processes work automatically. Training others to execute your methodology. Designing software that solves problems at scale. Every time you're doing repetitive work, ask, how could I systematize this? That's how you transition from trading time for money to creating assets that generate value. Step 4. The identity shift. This is the most important step, and it's the hardest because it requires you to change how you see yourself. Stop calling yourself a staff member or an employee. Those are muscle identities. They define you by your position in someone else's system. Start seeing yourself as a solution provider, a systems architect, a problem solver. These are brain identities. They define you by your capacity to create value. When your identity shifts, your behavior follows. You start showing up differently. You start thinking differently. You start contributing differently. And here's what happens. The market rewards brain identities far more generously than muscle identities. An employee who does what they're told gets a salary. A solution provider who solves problems gets equity. Which one are you becoming? Part 5. The call to movement. Dr. Catherine's message is clear, and it's urgent. The era of the strong back is being replaced by the era of the strong mind. For the African professional, this is the ultimate liberation. You don't need a massive factory. You don't need $1 million in startup capital. You don't need permission from gatekeepers in Europe or America. You need three things: a functioning brain, a shift in perspective, the discipline to stop playing it safe in the muscle zone. The muscle zone feels comfortable because you know what to do. You show up, you execute, you go home. There's no risk. There's no uncertainty. But there's also no growth. There's no transformation. There's no future. True growth happens in the brain zone, where you have to think, where you have to innovate, where you have to lead. And here's the truth that wakes people up. Most people will never make this transition. They'll stay comfortable in the muscle zone until technology, youth, or exhaustion forces them out. But you're not most people. You're here because something inside you knows there's more. Africa doesn't need more followers. We've been followers long enough. We've been the labor force, the resource extraction point, the executing arm of someone else's vision. Africa needs thinkers. People who can look at our unique challenges and design African solutions. People who can build systems that serve our communities. People who can create wealth that stays on the continent. Africa needs you to make the transition. And here's the beautiful part. When you make this shift, you're not just changing your own life. You're changing what's possible for your community, your family, the next generation. You become proof that the brain approach works. You become a model. You become a movement. So here's my question to you. What's one muscle task you're going to automate this week? What's one brain task you're going to prioritize? What's one step you're taking toward becoming the solution provider your continent needs? Comment below. Be specific. Because knowledge without action fails. Thank you for joining this movement. If this sparked a shift in your thinking, hit that like button and share this with one fellow African professional who needs to hear this message. Next steps. After this, watch our video on Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It connects perfectly with the neuroplasticity principles we discussed today. Remember, the muscle approach kept our ancestors alive, but the brain approach will make our generation thrive. Knowledge is power, but only when it moves. Stay conscious, stay moving, and make the shift from muscle to brain. I'll see you in the next one.